Goals. Excited to talk to you about goals. Again, there's one slide you actually pay attention to. Please do me a favor, make it this slide. Fair enough? All right, so we're going to talk about goals. Has anyone ever heard of the S.M.A.R.T acronym as it applies to goals? Good. Do you use it? Good. I wouldn't have expected anything less from this group. So for those that haven't heard of it and aren't familiar with it, I'll quickly talk about it. It stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. And this is what you want to do with all of your goals. Force yourself to put in the effort of applying these particular steps. And so I want to give you a quick example. I would hope most of you would have a goal, something like, I want to be a better student. That's good. Probably most of you do, but it's not specific, so we're not reaching that first criteria. Here's something that you can do, though, specifically to be a better student. I want a 4.0 GPA. Now, maybe not overall, but in any given semester, you can enter that semester, absolutely, if it's your goal, to achieve a 4.0 GPA. If you're already a few weeks into this semester, you've got some tests on your belt that aren't A's, then maybe you start it next semester. But going into any semester, you can do that. So it's specific. It makes you a better student, but it's very specific. 4.0 GPA, it's measurable. At the end of the semester, you either got the 4.0 GPA or you did not. So it's very measurable. I would offer you, if you got a 3.95, you still had a good semester. Okay, but you know it's measurable, so you know if you got there or not. It's attainable, absolutely. I would tell you yes. Again, not overall, not graduating with a 4.0, especially if you started like many of us in the 2.5 range. But in any given semester, it's absolutely attainable. It's realistic. Again, if it's done correctly with the right amount of time, and then it's time-bound, meaning at the end of the semester, you're going to know if you got it or not. So it's not good enough to say, I want to be a good student. It's ambiguous. It's not specific. It doesn't reach any of these, and it's not time-bound. So you have to do all those steps. And here's what I challenge you to do. I would challenge you to do it with your top 3. And if you do that, what you'll find is sub-goals or action steps, whatever you want to call it, that help you achieve those big goals. And you may even break it down to day-to-day actions that you need to achieve. I'm going to tell you a story about Richard Branson, Sir Richard Branson. Very successful entrepreneur. I think he's owned over 300 businesses, or bought and sold at one point in his life. Virgin Mobile, Virgin Records, Virgin Airlines. I think he's considered a billionaire now. I could be wrong in that. But let's agree that he's a successful individual. I'll tell you a story about him. There was a Fortune 500 company that wanted Sir Richard to come in and speak to their leaders. They thought if Sir Richard could come in, they'd really turn their company around, they could be even more successful. And so they offered Sir Richard $100,000 to come speak. And Sir Richard's people came back and said, no, I'm sorry, he's not available. They said, okay, we got it. $100,000 was enough. We'll give him $250,000. Sir Richard's people came back and said, nope, sorry, Sir Richard's unavailable. They said, okay, here's the deal. $500,000, $500,000, private jet, from the time that his feet touch down to the time that he gets back on that plane, 1 hour tops. We will bring our people to the airport. That's how important we think it is for Sir Richard to talk to our company. And Sir Richard's people came back and they said, no, he's not available. And finally the company, they were exhausted. They said, what is it going to take? We really want Sir Richard to come speak to our company. And his people replied that right now, Sir Richard has top 3 goals, strategic goals, and speaking to groups isn't one. Now, if you're like many of us, you say, wow, I mean, well, sure, if I was a billionaire, I could turn down $500,000 too. That'd be easy. Here's what I tell you. I think he got to be a billionaire because he would have turned down that $500,000 even when he didn't have it. He's applied that principle through his entire career, and that's where he is right now. Write it down, guys. Write it down. This is the one thing. This is the one slide. This is the one thing. I'll foot stomp it. Okay? Write it down, please. Talked about a 1979 Harvard MBA program. A study they did with him. 1979, of course, maybe the study's a little dated, but I think it's going to show you some powerful things. They interviewed the graduates of Harvard MBA. And they said, do you have clearly defined goals that are written down? There was 14% that had goals but not written down. There was 3% that had clearly defined, articulated goals written down. And the other 84% didn't really have any goals besides graduating, finding a job, what have you. 10 years later, they followed up with this group of MBA graduates, 1989. Now keep in mind, guys, this is Harvard. This is an Ivy League school. They had, if nothing else, they had a piece of paper that people recognized. They had obviously smart individuals. We can agree with that. They got into Harvard to begin with. So in 1989, they followed up. And here's what they found. The 14% that had goals just not written down earned about twice as much as the others that didn't have any goals, which is good. The 3%, though, earned on average 10 times more than the other 97% combined. Again, all smart individuals, all people with a great piece of paper that if nothing else said Harvard MBA on. But they wrote it down and think about those numbers, guys. 10 times more than that 97% combined. Harvard MBA, I mean, they're going to be millionaires. That 3% were multi-millionaires. So, to achieve goals you've never achieved before, you must be willing to do what you have never done before. If someone tells you you can have it all, I would say they're incorrect. You can't have it all. You can't have going out and partying every night and have a good GPA. Probably not. You have to sacrifice some things, and you have to do things that you've never done before to achieve goals you never had. If you remember one thing, guys, again, from today's talk, write down your goals, make plans to achieve them. A good way to do it would to go through S.M.A.R.T process. And then work on your plans every day. And notice I didn't say think about your plans every day, although that's good, but you have to work on them. Brian Tracy said your ability to set goals is the master skill of success. I would agree with him.